Hello, everyone. Babula and I are back with you once again to talk about the full moon in Aquarius, which is coming up on for us, it's the 2nd of August, I think, isn't it, Babula?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
So we're recording this a few days before that, but there's a lot going on in the background of this full moon. So we thought we'd talk about that, sort of lay out the canvas, and then we'd put the in the backdrop, and then we'd put the full moon in Aquarius in the foreground. So and there's a lot of because we were just saying beforehand that Pluto is still retrograding Capricorn at 29 degrees right at the moment, which is a powerful degree.
Yes.
So we're still seeing that ongoing demolition and deconstruction of, the powers that be, and it's like it's gone back to finish off the job. Well, it's beginning to do that for a little while longer yet, isn't it? But
yeah.
Do you want to sort of pick it up from there, Babula, and from your perspective?
Yeah. So, we just to sort of set the scene a little bit, most of you will remember that earlier this year, we had about 3 months or so when Pluto just slipped into the very first 0 degrees of Aquarius for a few months. We got a taste. Everybody was very excited. And then, of course, he turned retrograde and went, not finished with Capricorn. Back he went into Capricorn. So he's there till the end of the year, back in those last 2 degrees. So 28, 29. He's at 29 now. And just while I'm saying that, in January of 2024, he will move back into Aquarius and gets to about 2 or 2.5. We'll spend longer in Aquarius next year. This year it was only 3 months. Next year, I think it's around about 6 or 7 months. But then we'll have to go back into Capricorn once again in the end of the year, just to finish up the last piece of work, right? Of demolition work, just to finish the job.
It's like the dustpan and broom. Like, you think you pick up everything, but you've got to go back and sweep up again, don't you? All those other bits that you missed.
Or there might have been like a deep corner right in the back of the pantry, missed. What's lurking back there? Yep. And then by, end of December next year, Pluto will leave Capricorn finally and move into Aquarius, and then we'll be moving fully through Pluto in Aquarius for many years to come after that. So it's intense. Pluto is always intense, powerful, dramatic, very, very purposeful. There's no avoiding a Pluto transit. In my work, I see people all the time going through Pluto transits. I've been through a few doozies myself, and they are life-changing, and they will bring closure and ending through whatever means is necessary to bring about a rebirth and a regeneration and a regenesis and a new life in some way. So it's very powerful. And in the sign of Capricorn, the sign of tremendous earth sign with great power and strength, and it represents on one level, as we know, worldly structures and systems and organizations, governments, banking, all of it, every system and all the big corporations who own everything, absolutely everything. And Capricorn is that mountain, and so when you track back, and people have been digging Pluto and researching all this and dredging up the evidence, that all these corporations and companies and governments and systems and organizations, when they trace them back to their ownership and who owns that and who owns that, it goes back to about 3 companies and who owns those 3 companies at the top.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all coming out. That's all been coming out in this, and it's pretty dark.
That's that top-down control rather than the Aquarian energy, which comes from the grassroots up.
That's right. And when we're at 29 degrees of any sign, the anaretic degree, and it's Pluto, it's very intense. It's like, this is it. This is the last chance. So those who want to hold power and have total power are pulling out everything they've got now. They're throwing everything they've got at us because this is it.
Yeah.
kind of a do or die.
Yeah.
And if any individual, any people listening are having a direct transit of Pluto themselves in their own birth chart, they're going through the same process. It's critical. It's life-changing. This is it. And so, we emerge out the other side of it, a bit battered, a bit bedraggled, with a few bits missing, having been dredged. And, look, I was talking to a man in a session yesterday who's been through, in the last 2 years or so, massive Pluto transits. And I found myself saying, it's like going through hell. And he said, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So sometimes it feels like that. It can feel like hell. But the beautiful thing is then there's the emergence. And in that particular case is absolutely, everything was gone, but the re-emergence into a totally new life.
Yeah.
And that's the part we have to remember and keep the faith about.
Not always easy, is it?
It's not easy because it's very intense and it is a destructive force, but it's also a regenerative force.
Yes, yes.
We mustn't forget the rebirth side of it.
Yes, when we're in the hurricane, we feel like we're being ripped apart, which we literally are.
Yeah.
But, then we've got to put our life back together again and build ourselves from the inside out.
That's right. And all the systems and structures that we've known for so long, decades, generations, they're all just coming down. And that's pretty challenging, pretty confronting, and it's difficult. And but that's what's required for us to move out of the Kali Yuga, to move out of the old 2000-year age into a whole new paradigm and a new time. Like some people think that's just fantasy, airy fairy gobbledygook. It's not, it's real.
And maybe this is a good time for me just to mention that, talking about paradigm shifts, that just after midnight last night, there was the open congressional hearing about UFOs where military whistleblowers came forward and spoke about it. But it's, it was picked up on in at least 2 news streams in Australia, which is, almost unheard of. It's all over social media. And things like this have happened before, but this has had a significant impact where there's not going to be any going back. This genie isn't going to go back in the bottle, So this is this time of paradigm shifting where it's bringing down the cover up, if you could say that, and moving into Aquarius, because Aquarius rules, the skies, the outer space, the universe.
The cosmos.
Exactly. Angels, aliens, divas, all sorts of things. So this is a really interesting time for me, having spent 35 years as a researcher in this field and seeing all that work sort of come to fruition.
That's right. Exactly. And that's how powerful Pluto is and 29 degrees is. And those systems and structures, government, et cetera, that have worked so hard to keep this secret, it can't hold it anymore.
Yes. Yep. That's right.
And as you said, there is no going. Once we cross these lines, and we've all been through them with these kinds of transits in our life, there is no going back.
Yes, exactly.
We're in new territory. It is paradigm shifting.
Yes.
Yeah.
The teeter-totter has teetered.
It's teetered. It's teetered and it's tottered, and it's we're in a new place, a new space. So it's a lot. And for those who are sensitive, on one level we sort of see and have some sense of what's happening. We read about it, see it, but energetically it's also impacting us in ways that we may not even be fully aware of.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you've got to process that new paradigm, don't you?
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been doing that for the last 3.5 years now.
Very strongly.
Process.
Absolutely. And there's it's almost daily more is being uncovered and uncovered and uncovered, and it's coming through and cracking open, and it's a very good thing. But it's full on.
And I think the thing to remember though is that it's doing this where it sees things are not acting in our highest good. It's not destroying everything.
That's right.
It's bringing down things that are not serving humanity.
That's right.
In a way. Mm.
And some of those structures may remain in some form, but be cleaned out. Like, and we're talking about like a total deep purge in the deepest way. And some of the structures will most likely just completely go entirely, and new structures emerge, you know. So it'll be interesting to see in the coming years and decades, on those days when I feel like, oh, I'm a bit tired now, can I go? There's always that part of me that wants to stick around because I'm so curious to see how all this unfolds in the coming years, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to miss that. So that's about, you know, Pluto. But as we know, in recent weeks, the north and south nodes of the moon, that very strong kind of karmic dharmic axis, also change signs. They change signs every 18 to 19 months. That in itself is important, but lo and behold, they change signs while in a very tight square to Pluto. So it's that combination which is very strong, very radical in a way, very, and I'll use that word again, very paradigm shifting, as you said, very paradigm shifting, you know, like really pushing us into a new place. Absolutely. And so the North Node in Aries, we talked a bit about it last time, is Aries always has such a forward momentum. It's always surging forward, isn't it?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, you know, charging forward boldly with courage and guts and fire, and it's very immediate and very now. And the Libra South Node is about, you know, relationships and negotiation and not wanting to upset people. In some ways, the negative, more shadow side of Libra is a bit like political correctness, you know? Oh, you can't say that, it'll upset someone. You've got to keep the peace. No, don't argue about it. You know, that's not fair. That kind of.
I remember saying that as a kid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I live with 2 young children. We hear it every day. And I remember that as a kid too.
Yeah.
And so it's such an interesting polarity, isn't it? That Libra Aries polarity. And so the South Node, we must address the more sort of negative, if you like, qualities of the sign, but also remember the beautiful gifts that Libra has, which is about negotiation and discussion and can we come to some kind of an agreement that's not about someone backing down and giving up and giving up what they believe in? You know, how can that Libra Aries work through something so that everyone's getting what they need?
Yeah, win-win. And
win-win.
By finding that equal ground that we can all stand on. Yeah.
But the Aries North Node for us all now, over these next 18 months, is a call to action, is a call to courage, to being true to who we are, you know, and being less concerned about what others are going to think when there's this fire that comes up and says, but I need or I have to do this or that, you know, and so we just boldly step forward and go for it.
Yes. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Time to be brave, courageous.
And those of you listening who have a North Node in Aries or just anything in Aries, you'll know that energy, you know, that. But isn't it just amazing that as the nodes changed sign, they squared Pluto? I mean, it couldn't be more powerful. Talk about paradigm shifting. Yep. Okay. So with that, and the other thing, you know, last time when we spoke, I mentioned that on the 23rd of July, Venus turned retrograde. We'll come into the Leo story. But on the same day, Chiron turned retrograde in Aries. So, you know, we're talking Aries energy again. And Chiron in Aries for these 9 years or so, since 2018, is very much addressing issues around our wounds to do with Aries courage, the Aries warrior energy, the wounded masculine, the wounded warrior. And we're seeing this play out in the world in all kinds of different ways, the emasculation of the male energy, the attempts to disempower the masculine and what it means to be masculine, and its connection to war and anger and violence and all of these things. There's a lot of deep work going on in the collective and healing going on around that, just as a general theme over these 9 years, and as the planet turns and changes direction, that energy is really sort of up in the forefront. So that was going on as the North Node's coming into Aries.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And that masculine energy is in everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
That's
it's balancing that out as well.
That's right. And in my experience, people who were born with Chiron in Aries, back around, 45, 50 years ago, particularly if it was retrograde, usually have some really strong issues around courage and anger. Like there are wounds there. And they might be afraid to use that fiery energy because they've had whatever experiences in their childhood, in their life, in their relationships, or in their own past lives. They're like, oh, that's really uncomfortable. So if they're working and evolving, they'll be working with that energy and working on kind of healing that energy so they have more clarity about how to use it in a really clean, purposeful way,
Yeah.
And then maybe work as healers to help guide other people around that. Like, men who work with men to really help heal men of their wounds, right?
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Yeah. And I was having a conversation about that with this client yesterday, who was a guy who brought that up, and this is the direction he's moving into. After his life disintegrated, this is where he's moving to now. How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
To work with young men. Right?
Yeah.
So so it all fits that, I think this is an important issue for people to sort of consider and look at in themselves and in people around them and relationships and the world and so on. Yeah. And then, of course, there's the theme of war. I mean, just straight out war, which is, an issue in the collective field for sure.
Yeah, in the media.
That's right. All right. So let's just start going through the dates, shall we?
Okay.
And lead us into the whole Leo story and then into the full moon. So the sun had moved into Leo around the 21st, 22nd, I forget the exact date. No, it was on the 23rd, I think, when Venus was turning retrograde. I think that was all happening then. We mentioned the Lion's Gate, which happens every year in the Leo period when the sun's going through Leo, and it's connected to the star, the sun, Sirius. The sun, Sirius, is about this big compared to our sun, which is about that big by comparison, massive, and a very, very bright star, the dog star. I'm not an expert on this. I'll say that right up. But it's not just that the sun's going through Leo, it's that Sirius rises in such a way that it becomes very visible. And in Egypt, we know that it was a very, very important star, and the pyramids were in alignment with Sirius. And it was as Sirius was rising on the eastern sky, that was when the Nile flooded and, ensured that people survived, because that was how they were able to grow crops and feed themselves. It's very important. And Leo is very connected to Egypt.
I believe that Sirius lines up with the 3 stars in Orion's belt, which then correlate down to the pyramids.
Right.
The 3 main pyramids, yeah. And
yes.
that sets up light, consciousness, etc. that's beamed down.
That's right. It is all about light and consciousness, isn't it? And it's my understanding at a very simple level is that it's a very important body of light for Earth and for humans. It's
with a certain encoding that we
that's
absorb.
That's right. Very important. Energy of consciousness, higher consciousness. That's right. So this is a significant thing, and it occurs at this time of year while the sun's going through Leo, the sign of the lion. And of course, in Egypt, the Sphinx, is a lion. And the goddess Sekhmet, she has the lion head. This imagery around the lion is very strong. And anybody with, anything going on significantly in their chart with Leo will feel that connection to lion and lion energy, and very often to Egypt. And I've noticed in the last 6 months or so, I keep seeing it everywhere, and I hear it with people I meet too. Suddenly everyone's going to Egypt again.
Yes.
Have you noticed that? Like, Egypt's up.
Yes. Yeah, it's the place to be again.
Yes, big time. It's really, I think it's really, really surging forward in our consciousness. It's always there. It's a big thing, but
maybe the asteroid Sekhmet is doing its thing to a whole group of people.
Now, there's a good thought. Wouldn't that be so? I've got all these asteroids in my collection, and I have a particular file of the Egyptian asteroids.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I must go play with that after this.
Well, I remember I mentioned that to you because I had the Sekhmet show up in my field, and everything was pointing me to Sekhmet all the time. And you looked up my chart, and I had all these Egyptian
asteroids. Heaps of them.
Chart. Yeah.
Really showing up strongly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's so interesting. So the Lion's Gate is said to open as Sirius is rising and becoming more visible on the 26th of July, right? Which was yesterday. We're recording this on the 27th. On the 28th, Mercury at 28 degrees of Leo joins or forms a conjunction with Venus retrograde at 28 Leo. Now, Venus stationed and turned retrograde at 28 of Leo. It takes a planet that's changed direction, it takes it a while to gather up a bit of speed. So it's still kind of sitting there at 28, and Mercury's come along and joined with it. So Mercury is the messenger, our mind, our thinking, the voice, messages, and just, in terms of Egypt, the god that we associate with that is Thoth. Thoth, Hermes, Mercury.
Yeah.
The scribe, the messenger. Yeah. And so for some, this could be, and Venus has got a lot to do with love and relationships and heart. It could be really important conversations will be happening for people across these few days in relationship. Things that have needed to be spoken of that perhaps haven't been, and that can clear the air or shift something or bring things up that need to be addressed. Could be something like that. Or somebody might find that I've been holding back on saying this. I have to say it. Right? Leo, it's got to come out. So that could be, somebody might be feeling more empowered to really speak. And Leo is the lion, and the lion must roar. And people with Leo energy in their chart who haven't let their voice come forward with that roar haven't yet come into their power, their expression, and allowed themselves to be fully seen. I remember the first time I roared, it was terrifying the moment before it happened, and I was in a therapeutic situation with a big group, and I couldn't hold it back. It was the most amazing experience. I was never the same after that because, for years I'd kept silent. I was a very quiet person. And it's like that lion just threw her head back and she let rip. It was fantastic. So that's such a moment, when that roar comes through.
Interesting. I used to be in a choir called Roar, women's choir. Yeah, it was wonderful. I just felt so empowered doing that.
It's very empowering. That's right. To dare to make that much noise, and it comes from deep down inside. Yeah.
Now that's You said Mercury conjuncting Venus.
Venus retrograde, that's
Yeah,
right.
Venus retrograde. And also, isn't there also something else going on with Mercury, with Saturn? Is in opposition to Mercury as well this month? Or
Well, yes, you're onto something there, because the next day on the 29th, Mercury will leave Leo and go into Virgo.
oh yes.
Because it joins with Venus right at the very end of Leo, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Mercury then in the morning of the 29th will actually move into Virgo.
Uh-huh.
Significant, because Mercury is a ruler of Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini, so it's very strong in its own sign.
Mm-hmm.
And normally Mercury whizzes through a sign in about 3 weeks, but he's going, and we'll talk more about this in coming sessions,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to go through a retrograde phase
Right.
in Virgo.
Mm.
So he'll get to Virgo and turn retrograde later in August, about 4 weeks later, at 21, sorry, at 21 of Virgo.
Mm. Okay, so we've got Mercury moving into Virgo.
And that's right. And then on the 2nd of August, on the day of the full moon,
Yep.
Mercury will be at 5 of Virgo opposite Saturn in Pisces.
Okie dokie. So if we've got Mercury in Virgo, Mercury is about information communication, Virgo is about medical things, health, that sort of stuff.
And our work and skills
Yeah.
and so on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mercury in Virgo can be a period just in general when where our mind starts to get really focused on lots of things, all the things we need to do. Just getting, I remember when Mars moved into Virgo about 2 weeks ago, like that day, I was just like a mad woman. I just got into this cleaning frenzy because I couldn't stand it anymore. And, so I just swung into action, Mars. But Mercury is a fantastic time when it's in Virgo to do tremendous cleaning out and sorting and getting rid of stuff. I was happy to see that the council is going to do a curbside cleanup in early September in our suburb. I thought, great, get rid of more stuff. Anyone can come and have it. I don't care. So, that's very Virgo.
So when does Saturn go into opposition with Mercury?
That's on the day of the full moon, which is the 2nd of August.
Okay, right.
Right?
Getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. So you're aware that that's coming in, and it is a really interesting one because
it is.
Yeah, because there's different things going on with that. When Mercury and Saturn contact each other, and some people will have an aspect of those two in their chart, the mind is usually very focused.
Yes.
Very good for analysis, study, focus.
Good concentration.
Very good concentration, for study, for research, for really practical application, developing skills. Mercury in Virgo. If anyone's thinking of doing any kind of training, what an amazing time to do it while Mercury's going through Virgo.
I'm thinking about, because Saturn's quite restrictive and Mercury's about communication. So we might see some more clampdowns on social media and other platforms, etc., etc.
Etc. Exactly. That's right. And and Saturn's in Pisces, of course, now for these 3 years. So that can be something you see, Virgo Pisces, that polarity is about the practicality and logical and analytical approach in Virgo, which certain situations, that's absolutely what's required. And Pisces is the mystical, transcendent, imaginal realm, right? So, and Saturn's there. So it's a very interesting sort of juggling, balancing act of how to get those two energies working together. So, it could be, here's an example. It might be someone doing a course of spiritual study, or they're learning meditation, or they're studying healing, and it's a combination of actual knowledge and skill and technique, Mercury in Virgo, but also opening up to be a pure channel for that energy to come through as well.
Yeah.
Not either or, it's both.
Mm.
All good healers know that. They have the skill and the technique. And then they just, intuitively just move.
Yeah.
You know that in the work you've done and all the trainings you've done and so on. It's a combination, isn't it?
It is very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
But yes, Saturn to Mercury can get a bit oppressive around. You can't say that.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not allowed.
Mm.
Yeah. But Mercury in Virgo will come armed with facts and evidence.
Mm.
Right? Yeah.
I'm just thinking more about Saturn in opposition to Mercury. I mean, if you take that to the extreme, you could get like tunnel vision. Could you?
Yes.
Could create tunnel vision.
Yes, it can. Most definitely. And things can only fit into this paradigm and way of thinking. Anything outside of that is just not possible.
Yes, yeah.
Or allowed.
Yeah, so a bit closed-minded.
Closed-minded can absolutely be. Yeah.
Interesting.
But because I have a Mercury that's very, shall we say, loose and wide open, I very much notice people who have Saturn, Mercury, and I'm kind of in awe of their capacity to absolutely focus and apply their mind with great diligence and without any kind of distraction and wandering. Right? It's very impressive to me. Yeah.
Funny.
But I guess that wasn't what was required for me in this lifetime.
No.
That's right. So on the 2nd is the full moon. So that Mercury-Saturn opposition will be occurring on the full moon. That's in the full moon chart. So the sun is at 9 degrees of Leo on the full moon. And it's another super full moon. It simply means that the moon is closer to the earth and therefore is bigger and does have more of an effect because we're very affected by the moon, biologically, emotionally, mentally, psychically, nature. So it does have an impact. So the sun is at 9 of Leo and the moon is at 9 of Aquarius in the opposite sign. So while we're deep in the Leo story, as the sun moves through and Venus is doing her long retrograde story back through Leo, we come to the full moon in Aquarius. And that opposition is so interesting. To me, both of these signs hold a lot of light, and the sun and the moon are luminaries. They are, especially the full moon, bodies of light.
They're quite opposite though, aren't they?
They are. Because Leo is a fire sign, and fire signs are about, passion and vision and enthusiasm, and Leo has a certain drama about it. It's colorful and dramatic and emotional. People often only think of water signs as being emotional, but I remember years and years ago, I used to think about this a lot, and actually water signs might be more appropriate to say that they're feeling, and so that can come out as emotions. But you look at a lot of very fiery people, they can be very emotional. Emotions have to be expressed outwardly.
Yeah.
Signs can feel, but they may not always be expressing it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking with people when they blow up like volcanoes, they have their moments, I mean, that's a fiery energy, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, blowing up emotionally, like you go,
That's right.
Where did that come from?
It's all out there on full display.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's right.
As you run to get out of the way.
That's right. In Technicolor, especially with Leo.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's right. And it's ruled by the sun, and the sun is now in Leo, and we're in the Lion's Gate, and this is the full moon. This is big energy. Venus is retrograding in Leo.
Well, I'm glad we're having a full moon in Aquarius to sort of tamper that down a bit.
Well, yes, because Aquarius, as an air sign, is more about the mental and the intellect and knowledge.
And detached from those emotions.
Absolutely, it's detached. And anyone with a moon in Aquarius will experience that in their emotional body. There's more of a detachment.
Yeah.
And which can be a very helpful thing to be more of a witness, kind of cool, step back, eagle's view.
Yeah.
Looks at all the drama and goes, isn't that interesting? Right? While the fire, the Leo energy, is fully involved in the drama and the emotion and the color of it all. And I'm not trying to be derogatory about any sign. You know, every sign has all these different mixes of qualities. But the other thing, you know, that's very pertinent to the Leo Aquarius story is that Leo is about me, myself, and I.
I didn't want to say it. I wanted you to say it.
I have Leo rising. I can say it.
Yes. I have Aquarius rising.
There you go.
And the opposite.
We didn't plan this, but we've turned up in the right colors for this full moon.
Yes.
I went with the Leo, you went with the Aquarius.
Yeah.
Love it. Not planned at all. So so Leo is at its very best, and its purpose is to support the full development of the radiant self as an expression of sun, of solar, the solar principle, the spiritual principle of the radiant sun. Like that's, and the full power of that lion king energy. Now, the shadow of that, of course, is just ego run amok. We all know that, you know, that's the other side of it. Like it's all about me and it's only about me. And you will pay attention to me.
Yeah.
It's also a sign that's got a lot to do with leadership. And there are very good leaders and there are dreadful despotic dictator leaders, right?
Yeah.
So
it's about performance, being on stage.
That's right.
I mean, I know some Leos and they're on radio, in front of a camera,
on the stage.
Yeah, just, right out in front of people. Happy to do it too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, a lot of teachers have Leo energy. I noticed that some years ago when I became a teacher after years of thinking I couldn't possibly do that. I realized how easy it was for me. And then I started to notice all these people I knew who were teachers and natural teachers with Leo energy.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to stand up and everyone's looking at you.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Aquarius is about the people. It's about the egalitarian principles of, you know, everything being shared equally amongst all the people, and everybody has a right to come to the table and have a say and to participate in whatever's going on. So it's group, community, you know, which is why many people are saying in the Aquarian age coming, which will last for, you know, it's over 2,000 years, so got a long way to go for it to fully flower. Governing and governance won't be about these huge bodies of total control over the masses. It's a bit like, you know, Leo running the show, controlling the people. It will be more about small, it will become more local, like the village, the community, self-governance in groups and communities, and all the interconnecting circles of community. About the people, literally, the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this full moon is kind of highlighting all those issues about the self and the self's participation in the community without losing self-identity. So that's the real point of this opposition, I think, and this polarity. It's not that I give everything to the community and the group so that I disappear and just merge into it. It's I can still be fully myself and express myself and be true to myself and fully participate in the group and equally share power.
Yes. And I was thinking the one thing that or a couple of things they do have in common, Leo and Aquarius, is they're both freedom loving.
Yes.
And independent, or in Aquarius, independent thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some things that they have in common.
It's true. It's absolutely true. You know, Aquarians are very much individuals, and even though it's a very group community oriented energy, it's still very individualistic, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
It's like the group, the Aquarian group, is full of very individualistic people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the word is unique people.
Unique,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, unique and quirky.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that, I always have felt that the big question in Leo is, who am I?
Yeah.
That's the path. And while we're in this very strong Leo period now, that's a big question and a big theme and a big issue. Well, who am I and how am I showing up? Because Leo calls us to show up,
Mm.
to not hide and not hide our light, and to be seen and to step up in some way, And
Yeah.
in Aquarius, it's that participation in the group and in the collective and using our intelligence. Right, it's a sign of incredible intelligence. And Leo is creative energy and creative power that must be expressed. And I feel that Aquarius has a lot to do with the creative power of true intelligence.
Yeah.
Real intelligence is incredibly creative, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's very it's also communications through the arts and mass media too.
Yeah.
So, through the arts is very creative. Even mass media is the way you say it, the creative expression of what you want to say that's going to get to the heart of people, that sort of thing.
That's right. And as you say that, I'm reminded of the issue that's come up very strongly in recent months of AI sort of taking over the art space and literally creating paintings and writing poetry and writing essays and stories and like what happened to individual personal creative self-expression.
Makes me wonder about where our higher education systems are going to go, like universities.
That's
and how
right.
can they double check that people have actually written a PhD thesis?
That's right.
Like just very interesting times ahead.
I know. And this whole realm of digital art, that's
Yeah.
a valid form of creative expression, but is an individual creating that digital art, or has AI just generated it?
Yeah. And then we've also got the field of robotics.
Yeah.
Creating people.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I know.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm going to say it. I saw something the other day where someone was creating robots who can actually parallel the sexual act. I thought, hello, someone's got too much time on their hands.
Oh my God. And it's such a bypassing of nature and biology and what is real, it's very weird.
Well, it's the movie Blade Runner all over again,
It really is.
Yeah.
And just honestly, anyway.
If anyone hasn't seen Blade Runner with the latest one was with Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling. The first one, I forget was Harrison Ford the first one?
I think he was. Years ago, I'm sure he was.
It's very interesting to watch.
I've just written it down to remind myself to watch it again because I haven't seen it for years. And I think now is a very relevant time.
Yeah.
I want to watch the original and the new. So, yeah, great. So on this full moon and around those couple of days of this full moon, all the full moon themes and issues apply. But I would suggest this could be for men, not for everyone, depending on where this sits in our individual chart. For many people, this could be a wonderful time to be social, to connect with our friends and people and groups and enjoy and have fun and, to really let the light shine and to express ourselves. And it could be in whatever way, we are naturally inclined to do that.
And maybe it's for a humanitarian cause.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe a fundraiser or something like that,
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
I could just see artists. Sorry, I was going to say I could just see artists doing paint-offs, that sort of thing, and raising money for that.
That's right. And putting it all over the internet,
Yeah.
Aquarius energy. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. No, I think that's but there's a lot of light. That's how I see this axis of Aquarius. So, it's the sun and the full moon in Aquarius. To me, Aquarius holds a lot of light because it's the light of consciousness. you know,
Yeah.
an intelligent consciousness, which is a light. And it's a full moon, so the moon is in full light.
Put your crystals out.
Absolutely. Go and bathe out under this full moon. My God, the energy is going to be really high. For some, it might be too high for their nervous system. There could be a bit of madness, a bit of lunacy going on. Things could get a bit crazy.
That's true, especially in Aquarius. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's something. There's a square to Jupiter in Taurus. So I come back to, you know, grounding, feet on the earth, go and sit outside in the garden, you know, sit under the tree, hug the tree. You know, the grounding is what helps while this energy is so big.
Well, I was just going to add to that Aquarius, it governs our nervous system. So anyone suffering from anxiety, that might be raised a bit more.
That's right.
So just be aware of that.
Yes.
So maybe you don't go out and bathe under the full moon of Aquarius. You stay inside.
Maybe that's right. And perhaps it's a good time to unplug a bit from technology.
Yes, yeah.
Because we're going to be feeling quite wired. And we all know, you know, grounding is the antidote to feeling when our nervous system gets really wired and stressed and just there's too much. Grounding, stopping, grounding.
And the other thing to remember too is Aquarius is always out of step with mainstream society, basically. With anything that's right here and now, it's sort of over there or it's back there. And I've always experienced this with Aquarius rising, because by the time I catch on to something, that's already passed, or I'm in the forefront of it and no one else wants to know about it. Like, you know, I'm on the cutting edge of something.
Yeah.
No one else wants to know because they're not there yet.
But eventually they catch up and you've
moved on to something else.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's this sense of being out of step, which in a way, and particularly with this super full moon where you're more emotional, can make you feel a bit not so lonely, but have the strongest or a sense of aloneness.
Yes.
You know, so I think that's something to be aware of too.
That is an Aquarian issue. It's one of the wounds that people with strong Aquarian energy feel, of feeling a bit alien, a bit separate, a bit alienated.
Yeah.
Nobody really gets me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm seen as different, odd in some way.
Yeah. But I think if people feel like that, they just have to remind themselves, guess what? It's okay, because we're all different.
That's right. And then we start to connect. It's one of the reasons, and I've said this for years, you know, teaching astrology for years. I remember students used to always comment, particularly in the early months, like, wow, how wonderful it is to come here, because finally here's a group of people who are all like me.
Yeah.
And talking about this stuff that I can't talk about with anybody else. So finding groups of people who are like-minded, no one's ever the same, but like-minded and on the same page about something that's not accepted as normal mainstream is so good for people with planets in Aquarius.
Yes. And with people who have that, they're going to be drawn to astrology anyway.
That's right. And UFOs and crystals and all of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're the first ones to have the bags packed and ready for the aliens to come and pick them up.
That's right.
Get me out of this madhouse.
That's right. Exactly. And watching the skies.
Sky watchers. Yeah.
Absolutely. I used to know an Aquarian years ago. I go walking and he's like, all his energy was up here. He was always looking at the sky and looking at the tops of trees and the birds that way. Fascinating. Okay, so a strong full moon, high energy full moon, enjoy it, be grounded, use the Jupiter in Taurus. That's really helpful for that. Now, moving on the 8th, what time is it? Yes, moving on. On the 8th, we didn't get very far, did we? The 8th is a really important date every year because it's the 8th of the 8th, and this is known as the actual date of the Lion's Gate.
The peak.
Yeah, so you know, the Lion's Gate portal opens at the end of July, and it closes around the 12th of August. but it's on the 8th of August, on the 8th of the 8th. That's quite a powerful date. And Venus will be retrograde. So she's now moved back to 23 degrees of Leo. And she makes a conjunction with the Black Moon Lilith. Now, the Black Moon Lilith has been, I wanted to speak more about that today, but we're going to run out of time, maybe next time. The Black Moon Lilith moved into Leo in January and is there through to, I think it's like late September or early October. I can't quite remember. And she'll leave Leo and go into Virgo. So 9 months of this year, the Black Moon Lilith, she's been getting a lot of activations in the last month or so and is again this month. So Venus retrograde, the goddess, the feminine, the heart. When Venus is retrograding, we can liken this very much to the mythology of the descent of Inanna into the underworld, right? I mean, that's a whole big piece, a big important piece. And so she's now retrograde, beginning to prepare for her descent into the underworld. And she joins with the Black Moon Lilith, which is in some ways, is kind of a shadowy underworld energy in a sense. This has got a lot to do with the deep feminine, the power of the feminine, the goddess. And Leo, of course, is royalty. It's got to do with our human royal lineage as sons and daughters of God, the sun. There's so much in this. There's so much in this whole story that's going on in Leo now. And I find it fascinating that the Black Moon Lilith is being activated so much. And she's very much to do with the rejection of the feminine and the attempts by forces in this world for a long time to totally diminish, even annihilate the feminine, like actually. And when the feminine through women and dark-skinned indigenous peoples of this world and Gaia herself and nature, particularly through Leo, begin to really reclaim that energy and power and potency through Leo and put that crown firmly on the head and like a lion just roar and bare teeth if necessary. That's really powerful, coming out of the shadows as Venus is preparing for her descent. There's something very strong going on here. Now, how might we experience that? Entirely, it depends on every individual and where they're at and how this might be hitting something in their chart. Anyone with anything in the chart, roughly between about 10 of Leo and 28 of Leo, is going to be going through this deep transformational process of Venus retrograde. While Venus is retrograde, and I'll just touch on this briefly, for about 10 or 11 days in the middle, she's going to join with the sun and she will no longer be visible in the night sky. She's currently the evening star, has been for 9 months. As the sun moves forward through Leo, Venus had got to here in Leo and moves back, and they're moving now towards each other. They will meet. She's no longer visible for about 10 nights. She's gone into the underworld. She's made her descent. And when she emerges again, as they cross over and the sun moves on and she keeps going back, she will begin slowly to reappear in the sky, but as the morning star. So the whole symbolism of this is really profound. She, the goddess, the feminine principle, the heart in Leo, the sign of the heart, is going to go through a deep transformation that will impact all of us in different ways. It'll impact relationships, anything to do with love, who we love, what we love, how we love, how we know ourselves as an individual, themes around power in relationship dynamics, power over, power of. Venus is also about money and resources, which are often connected to issues around power and self and so on. It's a huge piece, and we're right in it now.
Yeah.
you know, and over these coming weeks, a month or two. So okay, so on the 8th, it's the Lion's Gate, and retrograde Venus is conjunct the Black Moon Lilith. That's a strong Lion's Gate.
Yeah.
The following day, Uranus will make a square to Uranus. So that means around those days, it's also she's squaring Uranus while she's conjunct the Black Moon.
Sorry, did you say Uranus square Uranus?
Oh, Venus retrograde.
That's what I thought.
Venus retrograde. If I did, I apologize. I'm sort of feel myself speeding up, trying to cover this ground before
That's all right. That's all. I'm sure people won't mind listening another 5-10 minutes.
Great. Venus retrograde in Leo, conjunct the Black Moon Lilith, squaring Uranus in Taurus.
So
over those few days.
There's some financial volatility there.
Big.
Yes.
Big. Around money, power, leadership, relationships, love, the heart, including medically the heart. We're going to see a lot more about the heart medically. Yep. So that's already going on. So that's also in this as well, right? Can be very powerful for people who are creatives, and in that Leo sense, engaged in creative pursuits in some form. This can be a really potent time to give expression to that creatively. You know, how might that want to be expressed? In a painting, in a dance form, through film, through stage, through whatever, through standing up in front of people and just saying what you have to say. You know, very powerful, very powerful. On the 13th, now on the 13th, then there's another very important thing that happens. Again, could take a whole hour, well, it could take a whole day to talk about it, is that Venus retrograde will be conjunct the Sun at 20 degrees of Leo, and that is the Venus star point, which forms an important part of a pentagram, a 5-pointed star, the star of the goddess, that is an 8-year cycle. So 8 years ago, Venus was conjunct the Sun at 21 degrees of Leo. And so over a period of just over 100 years, might be like 110 years or so, there's a Venus star point every 8 years in Leo, right? And it's moving back degree by degree in Leo. So this star point is a really significant point of the Nana's descent into the underworld, and it's a really potent moment of transformation. Where the Sun is, in astrology, we call it Cassimi, when a planet is at the same degree of the Sun, and the light of the Sun, it's like it almost burns out the energy of that planet, because that planet is completely invisible. It's completely taken over by the light of the Sun. There's also a merging. It's not only that, to me, there's also a merging of the light of the Sun is merged with the light of the heart. It's very strong. A lot will be happening for people during all of this, you know, particularly, as I said, those of us who were baby boomers, right? Post-war babies who have Pluto in Leo. This whole Venus retrograde story is going over our Pluto 3 times. So depending on what house we have Leo in, it's also going over my ascendant 3 times. So, you know, it's really getting activated with, and that's quite strong for the Pluto energy, right? And yeah, then on the 12th, and the day before, of course, the Lion's Gate closes. So this period leading up to the new moon on the 16th of August in Leo is very strong, and the main theme is all this Leo story that we're talking about, and of course Pluto squaring the nodes now in Libra, Aries. And there's a lot of fire energy in all of that.
Mm.
The Aries story and the Leo story.
Mm. Okay, so we'll be having the new moon in, what'd you say, Leo?
The new moon will be at 23 of Leo, conjunct the black moon Lilith, and conjunct Venus retrograde and square Uranus. So it's a big one.
Okay. We don't want to confuse too many people, but
No, I know
coming.
it is a lot to unpack all of that. And then just to sort of bring this in, on the 23rd of August, the sun will leave Leo and go into Virgo. Now, Venus is still doing her story in Leo, but the sun that rules Leo comes out, and there's a sense of, okay, things are going to kind of calm down. You could say, come to earth. Okay, now we can get on with, you know, some practical things we need to do. Let's get out in the garden. Let's get on with our work. Let's get on with, you know, the stuff of day-to-day life and so on.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely say this period may be for many quite dramatic. There might be drama. You know, I live with 2 young children, and my daughter has Mars in Leo. I have Leo energy. My son is a Leo with 5 planets in Leo. My granddaughter has Leo rising, Jupiter. There's a lot of Leo. So with young children, there's drama.
Yes.
You know, there's emotions, there's upsets, but there's also play and joy, which is also Leo. Yeah.
So hold on to your hats and let's see what happens.
And we'll see a lot going on in the world around leaders and leadership.
Yeah.
I reckon more leaders are going to be toppled.
Okay. Yeah.
I really do, as part of this. And perhaps some other people coming forward, you know.
They're looking for new leaders.
Yeah. And new leaders just emerging.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you for all of that.
I think I needed to wear orange so that I had that kind of energy to
get it out. Yes.
do all that. That's
yes.
right.
Yeah. Well, orange is quite a colour for shock, actually.
Is it? I
also
like orange. Yeah.
So thank you, everyone, thank you, Babula.
Oh, my pleasure.
For all that information. But anyone watching, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like, and if you want to share, leave some comments as usual. We'd love to hear from them. And we will see you again at the next episode when we come back for the new moon in Leo.
New moon in Leo.
Yeah. Okay. Until then, shine on.
Shine on.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.